Jai Ho, my dear students. I am Ratnakar Suryavanshi from SK Public School. In the last class, we have learnt about the region and empire. Right? The region and empire we have completed in the last lesson. There we learned that about pan-regional empires also, like Mughals, like Delhi Sultanates, Cholas. As I told you here, that between 1000 years of history, I mean almost about 700 to 1750, about 1000 years of history, we have learned that which were the important empires emerged, and how they ruled, which were the areas they controlled. Ghiyasuddin Balbans, I told you that which were the areas controlled by Ghiyasuddin Balban. Right? As I told you, Ghiyasuddin, one Sanskrit Prashasti described Ghiyasuddin's rule that it was extended from Bengal to Afghanistan, right? And it was included even the southern India, I mean Dravidian state, Dravidian regions were also the part of Ghiyasuddin Balban. About all these things we have learned, right? So today we are going to learn one more new topic, one more new concept in the lesson, tracing changes through 1000 years. So that is old and new religions. Which one? Old and new religions. Which were the religious? What all the religious developments took place between 700 to 1750 common era? What all the developments, religious developments took place between this? About those events, about those things we learn in today's class. Say the 1000 years of history that we learn in this textbook, it is witnessed the major developments in religious traditions. I mean various important developments took place in the religious traditions. I mean various religious practices, traditions. Major important developments took place between the 1000 years, I mean 700 to almost 750. Various developments took place in the religious practices and in the religious traditions. And even saying people's belief in the divine, it was obviously we consider, it was sometimes deeply personal, right? Our belief in the deity, our belief in particular God, it is our personal. But usually it was collective. At that time, usually it was what? Collective. I mean people, almost all the people used to believe in one deity, in one divine. So in this way, personal devotion become a collective divine. So this time, what happened? Belief in the God, belief in the goddess, belief in the divine, which was almost personal, that usually became collective. Collective means in groups. People began to believe in one deity, in one divine. So this was happened in these 1000 years. And even see that, even we can add one more point here, that say here, you know that the belief about a supernatural agency called religion, it become a collective. I mean people within together, they began to believe in one particular supernatural agency. That supernatural agency was what? Religion. That supernatural agency was religion. People collectively began to believe in one particular religion at that time. And even see here, even say it was related, I mean believing in one particular religion, it was dependent on the social and economic organizations of the local communities. I mean on the basis of social and economic conditions of the various communities. On this base, the people's belief in the religion was dependent in these 1000 years of history. And as the social words of these groups altered, so too did their beliefs. I mean according to the changes in their social groups, the belief on the religion was dependent, and it was during the time, it was during this period that important changes took place in Hinduism. See, in Hinduism, I mean Hindu religion, in Hinduism also important changes took place in these 1000 years of history. Important changes took place in the religion called Hinduism or in the Hindu. What all those changes took place? See, those changes included worship of new deities. What happens? See, new deities arise. New deities. What happens here? Important point I am telling. New deities arise here. New deities arise. In Hinduism, people began to believe in the new deities, and the construction of temples by the rulers or by the royal families was also increased. Construction of temples, devasthana, by the kings or by the royal families, rich people, prosperous people, merchants was also arise in this 1000 years of history. And even growing importance, see, the importance of Brahmanas also grew. Importance of Brahmanas, the first Varna of the Varna system. The Brahmanas gained importance during this time. Their importance was increased in the 1000 years, in this 1000 years of history. As well as Brahmanas' importance was increased as a dominant group in the society, as the strongest group in the society. I mean, they were considered as high class, upper class in this 1000 years of history. And even, see, why they were considered as high class people, higher caste people? Because they had knowledge of Sanskrit text. Brahmanas had knowledge of Sanskrit text. Because of having knowledge of the Sanskrit text, they were considered as high caste people in the society. They were considered as important in the society. They had a lot of respect in the society. Brahmanas had huge respect in the society. Why? Because of having knowledge about the Sanskrit text, about the Sanskrit texts, about the mantras or the tantras, etc. And see, even their dominant position, the Brahmanas' dominant position was also considered, was also respected, was also helped and supported by the patrons. I mean, kings also. Kings obviously belong to the, mainly belong to the Kshatriya. Those kings also supported the Brahmanas to be most respected section in the society. So this is what, these are all the developments took place in this 1000 years of history. Even see, one of the major developments of this period was the emergence of the idea called bhakti. Which one? The bhakti. It was the most important idea developed during this 1000 years of history. See, bhakti means, you know, the devotion we call. Correct? Bhakti means love or a devotion towards God. That is what we call bhakti. So, personal deity that devotees could reach without the help or without the aid of priests or elaborate rituals. In the past, what was there? Say, to conduct any ritual or to conduct any worship, there was a requirement of priests or money. But for bhakti, there was not requirement of any aid of the priest, or there was no need of any rituals. So that's why bhakti, it was a new idea emerged in this 1000 years of history. In this 1000 years of history, the bhakti, a new idea was emerged. And bhakti means saying devotion towards God. Bhakti means devotion towards God, of a loving, we consider. And even this was the period when new religions also appeared to the Indian subcontinent. Hinduism got various developments, as I told you that, and one more new idea appeared, that was Bhakti, I told you. And with these, in the history of this thousand years, even what happened? New religions also appeared in this Indian subcontinent. Which were those? Say, merchants and migrants. Migrant mean the people who came from outside to India to settle here only, to live here only, to carry their life here only. Those are called as migrants. See, merchants and migrants. First, with them, they brought the teachings of the holy book called Quran to India in the 7th century. When it was in the 7th century. In the 7th century, what happened? See, merchants as well as the migrants, those who migrated from outside the subcontinent to Indian subcontinent, what they did? They brought the teachings of the Quran. What they brought? They brought the teachings of the holy Quran. Which one? Quran. The teachings of the holy Quran were brought by the merchants and the migrants, those who came to Indian subcontinent during the 7th century. And even say, Muslims regard the Quran as their holy book. You know that Muslims respect the Quran as their holy book, and they accept the sovereignty of the one God. I mean, Muslims, they believe obviously in Quran, and even they accept the sovereignty. I mean, they believe in one God. Who believe in one God? Muslims, because it was there in Quran. They believe in one God. This was also came to India. And who was that one God? Correct, no? They believe in one God, okay, but who was that one God? The one God is Allah. One God was Allah. Right? And say that here, this time, even new religions also appeared in the Indian subcontinent. Right? In this way. And even see that here, many rulers were the patrons of Islam, and the ulama, they learned, even theologians as well as jurists. See, important term we learn here. See, many rulers they gave patron. Many rulers they gave patron to the Islam, which means they gave support to the Islam religion, as well as the ulama. Learned theologians and jurists are called as ulama. Ulama means learned theologians and jurists. Jurist means the people who are expert in the judicial matters or in the justice. Those are called as ulama. Those are called as jurists. So to them also the rulers give patron support. And even say, like Hinduism, even in Islam was also interpreted in a variety of ways by its followers. Like Hinduism, you know that Hinduism is interpreted in various ways, differently by various people. In the same way, Islam was also interpreted in different ways by its followers in this 1000 years of history. And even as I told you, it was interpreted differently like Hinduism. Correct? There were the Shia Muslims who believed that the Prophet Muhammad's son-in-law Ali was the legitimate leader of the Muslim community. See, there are two important sects, there are two important groups are there in Islam. How many groups are? Two. First one Shia. Second one is Sunni. These are the two important groups are there in which religion? In Islam religion. Okay. Now let's come to the Shia. Shia, same. These are the Islamic people. These are the Muslims. Correct? No? Those who believed in the legitimate, those who believed that the legitimate leader of the Muslim community was Ali. Who was this Ali? Who was this Ali? Ali was the son-in-law. Ali was the son-in-law of Prophet Muhammad. Prophet Muhammad, I mean Muhammad Paigambar we call. So Prophet Muhammad Paigambar's son-in-law was Ali. So Shia Muslims believed that their leader of the Islam community is Ali or was Ali, the son-in-law of Prophet Muhammad. And then coming to the Sunni Muslims accepted. The Sunni Muslims accepted the authority of the early leaders, I mean Khalifas of the Islam community and the succeeding Khalifas. Say an important point. Sunnis believe in Khalifas. Sunnis believe in Khalif, and then leaders were called as Khalifas. What? Khalifas we call. Say, Shias, they believe that their leader of the Islam community was Ali, and these Sunni Islamic people believed that their leader was Khalifa or Khalifas. So this time the belief of these sections within the Islam community was different, and there were other important differences between the various schools of law. Those are called as Hanafi as well as Shafi'i. Hanafi and Shafi'i. In these also there are various differences. The school of law we call them. In these also there were differences, mainly in India actually it is, and the theology and mystic traditions, as well as there were differences in theology as well as in mystic traditions. I mean people's belief was also different from one community to another community within the Islam community, within the Islam religion. So this is about the new and the old and new religion. This is all about old and new religions. Okay, and in the next class we will learn the last concept, the last topic of this lesson, that is tracing changes through 1,000 years. What is the topic? Last one, thinking about time and historical periods. Thinking about time and historical periods. About this we will learn in the next class. Thank you. Jai Hind.